Okay, Robin, let's
Okay,
start.
next slide.
All right.
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm currently in Thunder Bay, Ontario, teaching students from CLB2 to CLB4 in a blended and hybrid class. So I'm half online and half face-to-face currently.
And I'm Chayan from Regina, Saskatchewan. I'm teaching CLB 7-8, all online at the moment. We are not actually seeing our students face to face for a long time. So if you have some time while we are waiting, maybe you can type a greeting in the chat. Although I cannot see the chat, if Robin, you can see the chat, that might be helpful, but I can.
Yes, I
I have covered everything.
yes, I can see the chat. And I
Great.
noticed on the registration list, we had people from all across Canada. So glad that you could join us today. And we hope that you will gain some tools to develop yourself in your teaching with Avenue.
And this is just basically a day in our life with Avenue. Um, but if there are any questions that are actually kind of related to this one, we will try our best to answer them throughout and maybe in the end. So I'm going to actually start with a quick poll. And the poll, you will be answering this here in the poll. Okay. So please, you can, this is a multiple choice, so you can choose more than one. So I think except for myself and Robin, I think we got all the votes. So I'm gonna end polling and publish the result.
Are they following? Yes. They kind of.
All
So
right. Yes, it
yeah.
looks like the majority, 46%, are in the
Mm-hmm.
CLB 4 to 5 range, but it's
Yeah.
fairly evenly placed out, just a little lower in the Foundations Literacy CLB1. So we'll be covering from CLB2 to 8, but I trust that Foundations Literacy CLB1 can also benefit.
Okay. And we have one more about what we are actually going to talk today. One more quick poll for you. All right. This is just a single choice. This is not multiple. I know we might like to check all the boxes. I'm going to end this and share the results.
Oh, again, it looks fairly evenly spread out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With Teaching with Avenue and keeping up with email admin duties in the
Yeah.
lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. And we hope that we will be able to show what we do. All right.
Next
So,
slide, please.
yeah.
All right. So we find that sometimes teaching with Avenue can be challenging, but it's also linked in with different aspects of our teaching. For example, time management, the breaks we take, and the consistency of our routines. So being mindful of these three things. Next slide. So I find in time management, for me, knowing how my brain works, a tip is to work on cognitively demanding tasks early. For example, module or lesson planning or assessment planning, and focus on one task at a time. So at the end in our resource slides, our references, you can find the link to your brain at work. All of these resources you can find at the end of our slides. Next slide, please. Breaks with physical movement. Model self care for your learners. Take regular breaks and incorporate physical activity. So because I'm face-to-face as well as online, I stick to the same break schedule, the same routine that I have in the class, where I tell them, get up, move, don't just sit and look at your phone during your break. Get up, move around. I model, I say, I'm going to go out for a short walk now, whatever. And I model that for my learners. And again, Patrice Palmer has some excellent resources about teacher self-care. So you can visit those at the end of the slides as well. Consistent routines, develop schedule, workflow, and boundaries. Communicate these with learners. So boundaries, the students know when my office hours are, and they know that if they email me at 11 p.m. that I'm not going to answer them. I will answer them during my office hours. They need to know that this is clear, because sometimes with online teaching, the boundaries can become very fuzzy if we're not very clear about it. And again, some more resources. Weekly Workflow by Christina Pinheira, and a link online. There's a series of 5 webinars in Tutela.ca. So you can look up those webinars, and I found those very helpful with looking at communicating with students around these areas. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm gonna just give you a peek of my course page. You can see I'm linked 2 to 4. And one question that was asked from one of the participants in today's session was about the balance of synchronous and asynchronous hours. So synchronous being when it's I'm online using Big Blue button, virtual classroom. So this is going to be a decision that you will make with your administrator and the program. I'm in a full-time 25 hours a week class. So the days that I'm online, we do 1.5 hours a day in Big Blue Button. And then they have independent work or homework to do that I assign them, anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day. So that's when they can do it on their own time. And again, it depends, since I have a range of students, and some of them, their reading may be quite low, it may take them much longer than some of my higher level formally educated students to do the work. And I may assign different tasks to different levels. And up at the top, I've got keep layout simple and consistent for low level learners. So those of you, there was somebody from Foundations Literacy and CLB1, you have a different course setting, I believe, but to keep it simple, I don't want to put too many things in under one topic, and it should be in the same place. So every time they go to the online class, they know they can just click on this same link. It doesn't change. I don't change it around where it is. It's always the top. And then they know they can look for the heading of whichever week we're in. Next slide, please. All right, this is just a peek into one of my weeks. So this was 2 weeks ago, week 7. So what I find for my lower level learners is that they need demonstrations, not just written or oral instructions. So I do screen recording to explain the homework. I use loom.com. You can also use Screencast-O-Matic, Screencast-ify. There are a number of recordings out there. And I post it in the week where the homework is, so they can watch the recorded homework instructions again and again and again if they need to. And then I have different activities. I find that the H5P activities that I import from Tutela.ca are very, very well received by the students. They practice their listening and reading and writing, as well as their speaking, when they repeat after an audio. And the activity completion, you can learn how to do that from your mentor or in your Learn IT to Teach training, but it shows if they've completed the activity or not. Then they'll have a check there. And when I check, I can check my whole list and see who's completed the activity. And I've also started a routine Friday forum. So every Friday, they know that they're going to have a forum post to make and that they'll have to reply to a student. So I make a different question every Friday related to the theme and the tasks that we're working on for PBLA. And it's just a consistent part of their routine, and it helps them interact with each other. And I also put some comments in for the teacher presence as well. Next slide, please. All right, so my top tools in Avenue, like I said, I use the big blue button for the synchronous, for the video lesson. And I like to use the interactive whiteboard and the polling to keep the students engaged. Show and hide activities. So because my students are low level, again, I want to keep the page uncluttered. So I only make an activity available when I want them to do it. So I may prepare it early in the week, but then I keep it hidden until the day when they need to do that activity. Activity completion, which I mentioned, and then I have my own student account that I use to log in to see what the activity looks like from the student perspective, as well as I can use the switch role in my own course. Next slide, please. All right, here's an example of the hidden, well, here's a SCORM object. So we can import them from Tutela, and many of them are already in your courseware when you request a certain level courseware. And you can see I've got one that's hidden underneath. I decided I didn't want to do the medical application form, and I just kept it hidden, or I could delete it, or I could keep it hidden and then make it available later in the week if I want. Next slide, please. Some more top tools. So like I said, I've developed a consistent routine to use Friday forums, and then messaging we use a lot. So I send out, I use the participants, and I can send out one message to all of the participants. And then we also message each other. I show the students how to message me to ask a question. And adding new activities. So I'll sometimes import ones from YouTube, or I make my own videos and like the homework instructions videos. And then I put our files like they're, when I do assessments, I like to put the assessment files there, as well as giving it to them on paper copy, the H5P and the SCORM learning objects. I also rely a lot on my mentor to ask questions. I try to look at the website first, learnit2teach.ca, and also the YouTube channel. There are recorded previous webinars there to find out about things. So I try to look at those things before I ask my mentor, but I don't always find what I'm looking for. So I can use my mentor, or I also use the live chat a lot to ask questions. Next slide, please. So here you can see when you type learnit2teach.ca in your internet, in your search engine, you can click on Avenue support, and you find written documents of how to do everything, many activities that you can use, that you find in your training as well. And then there's the live chat. So sometimes if you're feeling under pressure for time and you just don't have time to search through all of the documents, You can just type a question in the live chat. Okay, next slide, please. So I've mentioned loom.com. That's the screen capture, screen recording device, which I use for giving homework instructions. And I've mentioned Tutela.ca, importing SCORM and H5P activities. Next slide, please. So here's a sample of my daily schedule. Officially, I start my class at 9 a.m. But again, because of thinking of how my brain works, I do some of my higher cognitive load thinking before 9 a.m. Okay. And that's even without coffee. So everybody has to find their own groove. But so I do my planning, and I may need to record a homework video or whatever, a number. Maybe I need to upload the PowerPoint for my online class, all those kind of things I do before the class. I take a short break, move around. Next slide, please. And then we all log in, the students and myself, to the Big Blue Button virtual classroom. And we have a routine. Again, because I have low-level learners, they still need the consistent practice of greetings. We do like a greeting chain. Well, one person will greet the next person, and that person greets another person. And we like to start with our video cams on, if possible, and just to give that friendly atmosphere, give it that community, learning community feeling, and they enjoy that. And if someone is having a bad hair day, and doesn't want to turn on their camera, that's fine too. There's no pressure. But most of them really enjoy seeing each other. And then we have a routine going. So this would be skill building activities according to PBLA. And again, it's a chain. The students will ask each other, how do you spell? And whatever vocabulary word lists we're working on, we will use those words, and they will write it in the chat and then give a sentence. So we do that in the classroom too. So they're used to that. It's a consistent routine where they're practicing the vocabulary. If some students trickle in a bit late, it doesn't interrupt the flow. Okay, they don't miss out on a big teaching moment. It's just our regular routine to practice vocabulary. And then we move on to the lesson, whatever I've uploaded in the PowerPoint PDF. And we turn off our webcams and mute microphones to save bandwidth and minimize distraction. And as I mentioned, I like to use polls and the interactive whiteboard to engage learners. Now, because again, they're low level and some are very low digital literacy, I start slowly. We didn't do the interactive whiteboard until about 7 weeks into the class. And at about 8 weeks, we started breakout rooms. So doing small groups in Big Blue Button instead of all one big group for the vocabulary practice. But I just slowly introduce new techniques so as not to overwhelm the learners. And then we have our break. Next slide, please. Now, we generally don't resume the lesson. An hour and a half online, that is enough. So they work on their independent work, and I am available. I have my office hours. They can message me, they can email me with a question. But generally, we've made sure, I make sure they take a photo or a screenshot of the homework that I tell them to do in the PowerPoint. I don't record homework instructions for every homework activity, just for my Friday homework activities when we actually don't meet online and they're working independently. And I have some of the very low digital literacy ones with me in the computer lab at work to help them. Okay, so I'm available to answer their questions. Then there's the break. I make sure I have my lunch away from my desk. And then in the afternoon, again, I'm available if they still have questions. Some learners do their homework later, depending if they have a part-time job, depending on their work hours. And then I do all my other fun stuff, my admin, emails, recording assessments, all that kind of stuff. If I would love to have more time for all of these things, but we know how it goes. Next slide, please. All right, so I know there's been some questions in the chat and Paul's fielding those, and we're going to save them till the end. We're going to have 10 minutes, we hope, at the end. But right before Chayan takes over, think to what I just talked about, the time management, the flow of the day, how your brain works, top tools in Avenue. What is your one takeaway from this? So this isn't a question we want. I want to know what thought or what word stands out to you from this first 20 minutes, and please share it in the chat. So it's not really the time for question, but if you do put a question, we'll save that for later as well. But we're looking more for a takeaway, one thought or phrase that you want to revisit or that stood out to you. So I see a few: organizing time and activities, having a routine, boundaries, like turning off the computer and walking away. So even just physical boundaries. Someone says, I'm doing better than I thought. That's great. And then we'll look at the questions later. Yeah. So yes, routines, office hours, Friday forums, great. And I actually wish I could hear everybody else's typical day. So hopefully in the future we'll have more sharing, because I would love to benefit from all your tips and experience as well. Thank you. And let's move on to Chayan.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. So, yeah, I mean, as I think for a lot of others who are here today, you will see some similarities in our life, of course. And just like Robin mentioned, I also try to focus on routine, breaks, and just, being consistent with whatever I do. But again, right, we try. So let's see how my time is spent. Now, as you can see, I'm teaching CLB 7-8. Well, interesting. I don't know why the 7 is missing here, but so my morning class is a 7-8 class. And then in the afternoon, I teach digital literacy to the students from all different levels. Our program has from CLB 5 to 8. So you understand that this is a little different. This is just a new kind of piloting, but this requires a lot of work as well. I'm sure you all wish that we all have someone to help the students, right? But see, I'm putting this here because all of these things I do on Avenue. I also have a little duty as curriculum organizer, and for that, we have created an empty course on Avenue where all our program instructors can upload things. But basically, my job is to work with them and organize. And then I'm also the blended lead of our program. So all the help, questions, everything is related to Avenue, So I also have to go there. And then also I'm a mentor. So then again, kind of these two things are very similar. So you can see I wrote 70%, but probably more than 70% of my time is spent on Avenue. Then the rest, 20-25% time, I spend on lesson planning, like all of you, teaching, responding to emails. Yes, way too many, like everybody else. And administrative tasks, like we have student timesheets. So my Mondays regularly start with a little differently than the other days, because on Mondays, every Monday, I put the timesheet, like a spreadsheet on the Avenue page, so the students can download it. Because there's still be 7-8, yes, I still have instructions, but they have to actually update the time they're using there so that their attendance is what should I say, fair. Because, you know, if there is a link connected to Avenue and they click on the link, that will take them out of Avenue, and that time you cannot count, right? Avenue does not record that time. So for that, we have created this timesheet. So my Monday mornings kind of start with, like, you know, putting up timesheets on the Avenue page and any other homework or any other plan for that week, or maybe assignment or assessments or workshops. So all these things. But other mornings are a little different. And then, of course, we have meetings, workplace meetings, and I have to talk to my trainees. So sometimes we meet on Zoom or phone, or of course, then other than that, I have emails. And also I have to think of some time for PDs and webinars, and these webinars are related to Avenue. So my life is all on Avenue. So to keep a consistent routine, I try to develop a schedule, especially after the first 3 months, April, May, and June. Those 3 months where I'm sure all of you would agree that those 3 months were really, like, you know, I could not manage. But now I think it is a little more manageable. So I set up a time for emails. I don't jump into my email box anymore. And I have made it sure that I do not open email box before or after that set time. And this is actually helping me a lot to, what should I say, like to calm down and focus more. Because I get really a lot of emails, so I star or flag the ones that may need more time. If I cannot answer them during this set time, so I star or flag them, and then later I go back to them to find the solution, for example. And if possible, avoid checking work email on your phone. I know it's sometimes difficult, but this is actually my last step, that I'm going to get rid of the work email from my phone. So I also have a workflow or work plan. Now, at this moment in our program, we are teaching kind of like 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 for both full-time and part-time. Yes, when we were face-to-face regular class, we had, I think, 11 or 12 hours part-time and 25 hours full-time. But now, because it's all online, this is decided that 8 hours will be for part-time teachers and 15 hours for full-time teachers. So this 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 is 1/3 is the online class time, right, on Zoom or Big Blue Button or whatever. The next 1/3 is the students' interactive activities, which can be included within this Zoom time, like, you know, if they're talking together in a breakout room, or the more interactive activities, those who are actually giving them feedback right away, not the ones that they have to wait, like, you know, those are for this 1/3, like individual work, like assessment or reading or maybe preparing for a presentation, things like that. So this is our time division. I'm going to show you our workflow pretty soon. Try to make at least one for teaching, that helps. And then if possible for the other ones, I wrote regular job because you saw that I have different things to do. So this is probably good for teaching. And I shared this one with my students. And some of the students are actually finding it really helpful, because that is also helping them to manage their own time. We have been talking about boundaries. Yes, I really do not take my device with me to when I'm having my break or lunch. It was difficult at first, but now, I just kind of forget it. And yes, if we don't take device, so then no social media, which actually gives my brain some rest. And unless emergency, I don't take phone calls or texts between during this break time or my lunch time. So some of my Avenue.ca tips. What I do, I have preset the scheduled Zoom meeting, and sometimes I use big blue button, but again, I create the sessions earlier, maybe, end of the previous day, maybe a Friday or Monday evening, or Monday afternoon to keep it, to set it open, so set it in a way so that it opens for the students the next day at a certain time. Make the course page user friendly, of course, so that the students don't have to really scroll down and down and down and not find anything. And then also, what happens when we open it, everything, like open means, what I mean is like when you turn anything on to add something or to fix something, everything opens right in front. So I try to make my course page user friendly. And then, of course, this is very common, like Robin mentioned, restrict access, set activity completion, show hide. These are very helpful. And this is actually a good one, that use a student account to check, like with a different account. Like just like Robin, I have my own student account, and it helps me. Like I try to do the activity and see actually whether it's working. If not, I go back as a teacher and fix it. I have been actually using EduLink and Avenue for a long time. So I have quite a few made activities, and this is actually helping me a lot now. So I edit and reuse my already made ones. And of course, there is Tutela, and already created other activities that come within the Avenue page. And of course, also I add new activities from those. I'm trying to create more assessments on Avenue.ca by quiz and assignments. One thing is quiz and assignments. If you tag them, these are the only two Avenue activities that can be transferred to the Avenue binder. These are the only two at this point, because this is still under construction, the binder, and hopefully others will be able to transfer soon. So this is a little bit of my course page. This is the the top, and I use a lot of HTML blocks, and this one is like a class notice board for reminders, or other notices or quick access to Zoom. I keep it here. Excuse me. I covered it just for privacy, but if they forget, they can just come here and click. They have other places, but for that they have to find and look for it. So this is the quickest one. This one is how my page looks now. These are called collapsible topics format. It's really, really easy, much easier to navigate, because the students can, and the teachers, of course, they can see all the topics, but they have a drop-down menu. So it does not open until you really want to, right? And so you don't have to look for them or jump from one to another or scroll down. Say you want to create something or update something under business communication, just click on this, and this is the only one that's gonna open. And another fun thing with collapsible topics format is you can check the box activity reports that actually help the students to track their progress on that definite topic area. So how many activities they have completed. But for activity reports, they will need, or as instructors, we will need to set up the activity completion buttons. So other than that, these activity report, just let me go back quickly. This activity report thing will not really be there, right? Because there is nothing to report. And as you can see, this is restricted, hidden from, sorry, this is hidden from students because I didn't want to use this one this time. Restricted, this is very helpful for any level. So see, I set up this assignment as an assessment. This is assignment, right? So they had to do this bullet points practice and highlights writing practice to open their assessment. So it tells on the top, on the page, that if you don't do this too, your assessment is not going to open. So they had to practice those two to attempt this task. And also, see, this is a quiz. I set it up as an assessment, and same way, restricted, they had to do these two H5P listening practice before they could open their assessment. Okay, so this is the weekly workflow plan. This is also adapted from Tutela webinar on discovering the easiest PBLA weekly workflow. And actually, one of my colleagues has been using this one, and she shared it with me, and this is so helpful. So I also shared this one with my students. So here, the students also know how much time they're expected to do every day. And we start our class at 10. Then this one, although I wrote it after the class, the speaking group, students only, not teacher, but now I am including this within my lesson. Because what happens, we can talk. The students can give feedback of the topic they are talking about, right? I still don't join the groups unless they ask for help. But other than that, they have become pretty used to this routine. And then as homework, depends on the month. So monthly, we use this one. Excuse me. And I try to keep these skills like Monday and Tuesday writing homework, and Wednesday and Thursday like that. So if this is the homework, we'll try to take it up on this Thursday. And then reading Thursday homework, then I try to take it up on Monday. Unless, if there is something going over or if they have an assessment coming up. Other than that, we try to set. And then also they have optional set, so they know where to go if they complete this mandatory homework. Oh, and sorry, I missed one thing. So Friday, I don't teach, but this is like my work day. So I do all the teacher other duties, but the students have their homework or assessment set up for that day. And they can also meet me or talk to me. And if there is any problem, I try to solve it here. Also here, but this is kind of more set up for those things. Okay, so basically, this is kind of my last slide. So what I do, I use the time to, if I have something else to work on when the students are in the breakout rooms, but of course, I make sure that I'm there if they ask for help. I always use PowerPoint or other visuals so that they are focused and they can take notes. I use the whiteboard and annotation on Zoom or Bbb to make it interactive. I also ask the students to use it, but using annotation is difficult also for the higher levels. Some of them can, and when they can, well, actually they turn into kids. They start making funny faces on those whiteboard. And try to include individual, group work, and pair time to keep it engaging. So I have started actually writing in groups. So I put them in breakout rooms. They with a smaller task, of course, not very long. One person shared the screen and writes mm, their discussion or decision or whatever it is, put it together. Others um, give their ideas, and then when they come back, we take it together as a class, so they can actually see me correcting on the screen, which is quite a few of them actually told me that this is very helpful for them. And because this is not one person's writing, so they don't really feel that it is kind of picking on them. And use Poodle, Loom, Zoom, Screencast, anything available to you to record your feedback. It does save time. Especially for speaking assessments, I do use a lot of any of these. And finally, at least try to relax. So basically that's all from me. And just like Robin, without any questions here, what is one thing that you can actually use, or one takeaway from this? If you can share it in the chat, that would be great. Robin, if you can also read, because I cannot still open the chat.
Yes, I will read.
Thank you.
I like how you use blocks.
Yeah, HTML blocks can be used for different purposes. So that's just one use. And I am using them for other things as well.
Keep students involved with multiple methods.
Mm-hmm.
And your routine is admirable.
Thank you. Trying to stick to that.
Very organized.
Okay, we have about 15 minutes. So I have collected a couple of questions. So I'm going to show it to all of you. There was one question when you were registering. How do we assess? So I have already mentioned that I use assignments and quizzes. So you can actually go on to the webinar on assignments that is already done. It's on Learn92 YouTube page. November 17 and 20, there will be 2 more webinars about quiz. And this question is a little bit not quite sure. So I kind of mentioned here, like as an instructor, how do you create an Avenue account or to enroll students? So if you want to get your own classroom, you'll have to ask your mentor. And how you enroll students, everything is given in your stage 2. And also on the portal that Robin showed, Avenue Help, Avenue Support. So everything is there. I also mentioned that if it is about Avenue Binder, it's still under construction. And if it is about students' personal e-portfolio that we used to create on EduLink, I think Paul talked about this somewhere in the beginning of this webinars, and other helps are available on the YouTube channel and on the portal. I think I'm going to stop sharing to see if there are any other questions. Okay, now I can look at the chat. Paul, is there anything for Robin and myself to talk about? Okay, so Vasna has the question about digital literacy program. The digital literacy program is, we just started, and the instructors are basically observing the students for a couple of days to see what they can or cannot do. like they try, of course, to help the students mostly with the basic things. But if a student really cannot say, have really no idea, like, writing on using Microsoft Word, or they don't have Microsoft Word, or they are struggling on Avenue. So we have a system, like, a referral sheet. So the teachers write their name, and I try to help them half an hour, 20 minutes, depending upon their level, every day. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know whether that answered your question, Vasna. Robin, I think you have a question here.
Yes, I wrote in the chat. So far I've left the different topics from week 1 visible, but that's more actually because time has gone so fast. I feel like I haven't even had time to think about if I'm going to keep them visible or not. So I may change that just to keep the navigation simpler for lower levels. So I think I will do that. We do have continuous intake, but I do not expect new students to go back and review all the material. It's too much. But some of the assignments or the materials, like the PBLA course orientation, I'm going to keep visible because of continuous intake. So when I get a new learner, I will send them to that. So I will need to keep that visible. But no, I'm going to hide. I've decided I'm going to hide some of the weeks just to keep it simpler.
I see another question. How do they bring their group writing task back to the main group? I give them access, like multiple users can share their screen at the same time. So it's available, it's possible on Zoom. And if you are on, if you're using Big Blue Button, that's also possible. Just give one student host for that moment, and then they can share their page, and you can show it to others, and then you can take back the host again. But for Zoom, I don't have to give them the host access. I can just give them share multiple, what is it called? Multiple users can share the screen, and then they can share it. Any
So can
other?
you have
Sorry, Sue, yes? You are stuck, cannot hear you.
multiple hosts in Big Blue Button or just one at a time?
One at a time.
Did you hear my question?
Yes.
Just
yes.
one. So if you have 4 groups, you
Yeah,
can
one
only
each
have
time.
one.
Yeah, one at a time in Big Blue Button. I think Sue's internet connection is not that good. So I'm guessing, so yes, so each group, one person is sharing the screen, and you can show and talk about the mistakes they made on that document, and then another group's one person. So they have to decide which person is actually writing and sharing. I think it is probably, I don't know, I have not used it on Big Blue Button yet, but it should be the same. But if it is on Big Blue Button, I don't think in the breakout rooms they can actually share their screen. So, which is possible on Zoom. Kiji, okay, you have asked, you like the collapsible 4 topics format. Yeah, so about those things, collapsible topics format and other tips, there will be another webinar coming up on 27th. John and myself, we are going to run that one as well. So which is going to, probably the name will be something like Tips to Energize Your Avenue page. So come that time, we can talk about it. Or you can email me later. I can just let you know, inform you about that. Anything else?
I had a question about how do they ask for help when they're in a breakout room? In BBB, I can't see how they could ask me, but maybe in Zoom they can.
In Zoom, they can, yes. They have a button, ask for help.
Okay, so BBB doesn't have that.
I haven't found it previously. So I used to actually listen in or go from room to room. And so I haven't been using BBB for last couple of months. So not sure whether it has been improved or not. Maybe Paul can say something. Paul, what about BBB? Is it possible
I'm
to ask
sorry,
for help?
I'm not the BBB expert. Sorry about that. I don't actually know.
Okay, no problem. Yes, Mary, activity completion reports and as many things as we can cover, we will see on 27th. Yes, restricted access as well.
Someone asked about how you can be sure someone's doing the quiz themselves, and that's a whole topic. It was actually addressed. If you're in Tesla, Ontario, there was a webinar at the conference on the weekend that should be available in Tutela as well. But it's what I do with my students is, first of all, I get them used to when they're doing a learner reflection or learner self-assessment. It's like a statement of integrity, or they just check off. I just have them think about, so who helped you or what helped you. I'm trying to understand the strategies they use. So if I have them do something at home, like fill out a form, I'll have them complete. Did you ask a family member for help? Did you use Google Translate? Did you use the Oxford Learner Dictionary? You know, some tools, some strategies. So, and it's not a value judgment if I'm doing it, you know, if it's not an assessment at that time. So they get used to kind of sharing what their strategies are and being upfront about that. And then we do talk about in the class as well, the academic integrity and how certain things we need to see what you can do by yourself. And some people, yes, do use their cameras to watch when they're doing it, like Paul has said in the chat. So there are a number of different strategies, but I'm trying to make it more, it's not just about to try to catch them cheating. It's for them to learn which strategies are appropriate to use at different times, because at times in your life it is appropriate to ask someone for help or to help someone else, but they need to learn the Canadian culture around the kind of test taking or assessment taking. So it's more trying to get a feel of what strategies they use, and then when are those strategies appropriate to use. So it's all about building that awareness. I don't know if that's helpful for you.
Also, if you are using, you know, assignment or quiz, you can set time. Like they cannot go for, if they start, they have to finish it within a certain time. So all these things are possible. And yes, I understand within even that certain time, one or two students actually might think of, you know, cheating and things, but so far, you know, you grow that understanding after looking at some of your students' work, that okay, this is their work or this is not their work. So so far actually I have not seen, maybe I should say 1%, like each term. Well, so far I would say, like from April until now, probably 2 students I was worried about. So I think you know, that's the thing, like we can understand whether it's their work or not.
Yes. And so I see, Larissa, that you mentioned you tried testing level 3s on Zoom. It was very stressful. So do you also use the cameras on for times other than assessments, because it's always recommended for lower stakes activities, like just for your interactions that they get used to having the camera on so you can see. So Lisa Herrera has just done a webinar for the Tesla Ontario conference about having online assessments, how to keep integrity in those. And she did mention that, you know, if students feel that they're not able to have a camera on, maybe they're just going to have to wait until things change. You know, to keep that integrity, there are certain strategies that she encouraged us to use, and one was keeping the camera on. So if we can try to have them use that in a more relaxed situation first before it's an assessment situation, and get them used to that. Yeah, and just get them used to that this is a part of online study.
Yes, Robin, thank you. I understand all that, and I am trying to do whatever. Like, they are on camera all the time, every day that we are on Zoom. The cameras are on, except I have only one student who, for whatever reason, doesn't turn his camera on. But during the test, when I tried that, first of all, people who have phones, they couldn't do it. So they couldn't do it with a phone. And they were really stressed. But when I just give them assignments or quizzes, and I do give them limit on time. So still, I have notorious cheaters that they manage to do that. And maybe somebody does it for them, because I know this person cannot read. She is illiterate, but she did her reading test 100%. So, and I'm not sure, should I just throw out that test and say to her, you did not do it? But I feel sorry for them on the other hand.
Yes. Yes. Are you connected with Tutela.ca? Because I believe Lisa Herrera is going to be giving that webinar again later this month, I believe. So it's about online assessment integrity related to PBLA. So something to watch out for.
Okay, thank you.
She does address some of those concerns, but I agree it's very challenging. Not all of my students have computers and to navigate back and forth. She mentioned maybe at least have them check in with their camera at the start, and if they can't navigate, you know, with a phone, that their camera's on and doing that while they do the activity, then they check in at the end. But it's certainly not ideal. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and if we didn't have to use it for promotions, I mean, we need still the same number of tests to promote them to the next level. And I can't really promote them based on these tests, on these quizzes, because it's not really, it's not valid for everybody. I understand some of them do their work themselves, and I know that, and I can see that, but not all of them. So it's a bit unfair, because some of them just continue doing it on their own, and others just cheat, and that's it.
Yes, it is very challenging. Oh, good. Someone's typed in, Vesna, thank you. November 20th, validity when assessing online on Tutela. Thank you, Vesna. I knew that was coming up. She also mentioned, Lisa Herrera also mentioned perhaps focusing more on the speaking and listening, which may be easier. You can do one-on-one and things like that. But, you know, we're all trying to learn strategies. It's very difficult. And as someone, Hussein, just recommended, some of my students did actually buy laptops from Walmart for $350. Not everyone can afford it. I still have students who just have phones, but some did invest in their education that way. So yes, thank you for those comments.
Okay, thank you all for being here, and it is 3 o'clock. You are welcome to stay longer if you have more questions or comments. Otherwise, I think, thank you very much. And thank you, Paul, for helping out.
Yes, thank you, everybody. It's wonderful to see all of you.